Welcome to Remain in the Race podcast, brought to you by 88 Live to Ride, with your hosts Ryan Havens, Daniel Hillian, and Mitch Reynolds, where we're going to discuss all things family, life, racing, and outdoors, where all glory will be given to the one who created us.
You are listening to episode 27 of Remain in the Race, and we are in the Frog 2.0 today. I am Super D, Daniel Hillian, joined with the one and only, the 137, the man that's wearing a collared shirt which looks like it has giraffes on it. I'm not real for sure.
Psychedelic giraffe.
It's Mitchell the Rocket Reynolds. How you doing, Mitch?
One and only, that's right, because the world couldn't take two of them.
That's right. Are those giraffes, though?
They're giraffes, multicolored giraffes. I don't know. I didn't buy this shirt. I just wake up in the morning, I look in my closet and say, hey, there's a clean shirt. That might be a good conversation piece. I'm going to put it on.
I like it. Well, shout out to Haley or the kids or whoever. That's a pretty baller shirt. I'm into it. Well, hey, episode 27 is going to be Dynamite.
Yes,
and the reason
indeed.
is we have two awesome interviews that went really, really well. Paula Kweik joined us for a quick chat along with the 144 of Jax Meloy. And so we will get to them here in just a second. But, man, just a little life update, man. Mitch, looks like River brought home a little championship ring there in the softball world.
Staying undefeated, one district, on to state this next weekend. So we're practicing hard.
Yeah.
We want to keep that perfect season going, and that was our ultimate goal as we started. It's been really cool to watch that little team develop and how hard they work and like how competitive they've become. That transition over the last year it's just awesome. Like, just to see her have passion for something, like I can appreciate that a lot with my passion in the racing world. But this episode is great. Having a representation from the women's class, having representation from youth, which Jax kills it. I really enjoyed the time with him, and Paula did as well. So two big crucial parts of our sport we get to just share a little glimpse of here in this episode, and so it's a good time.
Yeah, it's, anytime we bring a guest on, we're always just like, well, we'll see how it goes, because all these people we're friends with, but, just doing an interview, even Kevin Allen was like, dude, I was so nervous, but, man, Paula settled in right away, as did Jax, and afterwards, after we stopped recording, he's like, man, I've never been so nervous in all my life, but he really did a great job. But hey, before we get too much further into episode 27 here, gotta let you know about something coming up. One of our great sponsors, our title sponsors, Debbie Bartosik, 88 Live to Ride. They've got an auction coming up, and this thing is just incredible. Mitch, hit me with some of them details.
Yeah, so 88 Live to Ride, I know we've highlighted it a little bit, but it is a nonprofit foundation that was started after Matt Bartosik, Miss Debbie's son, passed away, unfortunately, in a racing accident. But instead of responding to that adversity and just going into despair, we know Miss Debbie dealt with a lot of things, but she decided to give back. She wanted to pour back into the sport and do things for others, like that's who the person that she is. So 20 years ago, she started 88 Live to Ride in memory of Matt Bartosik. And man, they have provided so much for the racing world as far as sponsorship and educating people on rider safety and the helmet release stuff. She's at the ATVMX. They have brought Resilient Performance, Mr. Jim Bowie and staff, for the last 3 years and provided free of charge therapy and adjustments to people. It's really, really cool. But if you just look around the racing scene, you will see how much she has poured into this sport. And that service alone costs like $50,000 to $60,000, Super D. But all this is funded through their auction. That's where primarily their funds you can also give on their website at 88livetoride.com. But through the auction, which takes place at Loretta Lynn's on Friday night of the ATVMX. So this year it'll be Friday, August the 11th. So what they do is they'll take donations of ATV racing stuff or not so much ATV racing stuff, basically anything. They'll auction it off, and all the proceeds will go to 88 Live to Ride, which is then just poured right back into the sport. So what we're calling you as listeners to do, if you want to be involved with 88 Live to Ride, you can go to 88livetoride.com, or you can go to 88 Live to Ride Inc. gmail.com. You can email Miss Debbie and say, hey, we want to be involved. Let her know how you want to be involved. If you want to donate parts, if you want to donate money, you want to donate your time, whatever, she will get back with you. But she tries to get everything set up by the end of June for that, because it's a huge event that will take place on Friday, August 11th, and also looking forward to something very special there at Loretta's. For those of you that didn't know, Loretta's with some bad flooding was just basically washed away, and so they had to rebuild the whole place. And the announcer tower, which is going to be new and upgraded in a better position, is going to be dedicated to 88 Live to Ride. So it's going to be something special for Miss Debbie, the 20th year of this, just to watch her, take something, when she was in the down and out and wanting to help others out. There's no way she could have dreamed what would have transpired from this foundation, and how Matt continues to live on through this nonprofit. So
yeah, and that's one of those things too. You've got two things here, Mitch. You've got about, if you're interested in donating or being part of it, we'll be posting stuff on our social media. You can also check out 88 Live to Ride on social media platforms. But you got about a month to get that done. And Debbie's story is just such an encouragement, because as I think about just my life, and I've been blessed not to experience the road that Miss Debbie's had to walk. That's a very difficult situation, losing a child. But every day, I feel like we all face some type of adversity, some more difficult than others. But one of the things for me, Mitch, that helps me get through that is my relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the rock. That's the thing that when everyone else is going to let me down, and even me and you are good buddies. We're going to let each other down. Our spouses, we're going to do everything we can for them, for Haley, for Emily. But at the end of the day, we're humans. We fail. We're not these perfect beings, but the beauty of the God that we serve is that He's always there in every situation. And there's times where something will happen. And I even try to tell my students this. I said, right now in the moment, it's really hard to see how is God at work in this, and especially in the face of tragedy, how is God going to work through this? But just having faith in Him and just trusting that, okay, I know that this may not make sense to me now, but I know that it will later on down the road. You can really see that, oh, okay, God, I see what you were doing there. And then, there's some situations that it's just like, I even have to tell students, they'll ask some really difficult questions, Mitch, and I just have to say, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. I said, but I do know the God that does, and I'm going to put my hope and my trust in Him, and so it's just been really, really cool. I can remember, when Matt passed away and getting that news, and obviously your family was much closer than mine was, but everyone across the racing community felt it, and then just to see Miss Debbie, just take that and not let it, back her into a corner. I mean, she's really, think of the lives she has impacted over the years. 20 years.
Yeah.
And to have a iconic place like Loretta Lynn's and that track and the history that's there, to have that tower be donated in Matt's, that's so cool.
That's so awesome. It's a God thing, dude.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely a God thing that, just like you said, we are imperfect beings. I mean, we try to do good and try to be good, but ultimately, what Jesus did for us on the cross, that's true love. Love is, there's no greater love than this, that you would lay your life down for your brother, and that's what Jesus did for us. Mm-hmm. He laid His life down to pay the penalty for our sins. So we simply should, since we've been changed, we should respond that same way.
Right.
We should know that. Like in 1 Peter 4 says, most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other, for love covers a multitude of sins.
That's right.
So that's what, when faced with anything, just choose to love. Does it love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and second, does it love your neighbor? Mm-hmm. That's the way we're supposed to respond.
That's right.
Not always the way that feels natural, or way we want to,
or is easy,
or easy.
Right.
It never is. It never is. But choosing to love is not. It's not a feeling. It's an action. It's both. Yeah. So,
Man, well, that is good stuff, and we love Miss Debbie. And they actually got to. We may have said this early on, but after was it Sunset Ridge? They came in and hung out at y'all's place for a couple days.
That would have been after Underground in Texas.
That's right.
There you go.
Underground. Yeah. Well, man, such good stuff. Anyways, be watching our social media if you want to get involved with Miss Debbie and 88 Live to Ride in the auction there. But hey,
did we mention that we're going to recap some racing?
We're going to recap some racing.
So rounds 3 and 4 at Owosso here at the end. And for the MWEDT World and NE-EDT World, we will recap Birch Creek, which just happened yesterday.
That's right. Well, let's catch a pit stop here real quick, fill up the coffee cups, and then we're going to jump into an interview with Miss Paula Kweik, and then we're going to jump into an interview with Jax Meloy. So y'all stay with us.
Hey, here at Remain in the Race, we're all about Ryland Johnson Racing. For all of the aftermarket needs, from grab bars and bumpers to heel guards to complete custom builds, give them a visit at rylandjohnsonracing.com.
Hey, we have Paula Kweik on the line, and she is one of our women's class racers from the NE-EDT series. An awesome lady that is been around the sport for a long time and still getting after it. So, Paula Kweik, how we doing today?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
Oh, Mitch and I are living the dream as always. We're talking four-wheeler racing, and we're getting to do it with a really awesome racer, competitor, and just an awesome lady. And so, let's go back to the beginning, Paula. What got you into four-wheeler racing? You know, every visitor we have on, we always like to ask them this, and it's interesting to hear the different stories. You know, my dad raced, but yours is a little bit different.
Yeah, so my dad and my brother and I one time we went to actually the motorcycle nationals races. We went to High Point to watch a race. And my brother decided he wanted to start racing. So my dad and my brother started going to the races, and I started tagging along. And then I decided, hey, Dad, can I try it? And so I started racing, kept up with it. My brother hasn't raced much. I mean, he rides on the side or recreational, but he started it. And I just started after getting to watch him race and enjoying going to the races all the time.
It's awesome. And so started racing, and I'm sure that started on a 50 like everyone else did. You know, was yours I think with Ryland, his was a LEM, but was you on I guess it was just the Suzuki back then, right?
Yep, you had the yellow and the orange Suzukis, and I had one of the orange ones. So yeah.
Nice. So started off in the motocross world, and that's funny. Your brother was a little bit older than you. It's the gap between you and your brother's the same as me and my brother. I just thought that was interesting. And so y'all do that and kind of dive off into the motocross world. What happened after that?
I continued on, started on the 50, of course, then went into the automatics, then up to the 80 mods, and then into the two-stroke world when the 250 started, and then just kept on with the motocross racing all the way to probably about 2003, and then decided to stay with TT instead of motocross. So the majority of my life has been motocross racing, and since about the last 12-15 years. So racing's been family. It's been a part of my life since I was 9 years old. So it's what I love to do and what I would love to continue to do as long as I can.
Right. Well, you know, Mitchell over here has this theory that the best TT racers, flat track racers, also race motocross, whereas I'm just like, well, as long as you're doing two disciplines or can practice cross country, you know, or a little bit of motocross. And so Mitch is a big fan because you've got that motocross background.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to ask you, Paula. So you grew up in Virginia, is that correct?
No, I actually grew up in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you're a PA girl. Well, that makes, because you know, motocross is dominated in PA. So I just wondered how how you started off with the motocross in the motocross scene. Well, I had that you were a 5-time women's champ, and that's just since the NE-EDT. But you have championships since before that as well. You've got a total of 10 championships, correct? And are those all in the women's class?
Majority of the women's class, one's in an A class. So yeah, the majority, 9 of them are women's. One of them's unlimited A. I think we were AMA then, maybe. I'm not sure.
So do you still ride any motocross, cross training or anything?
No, with family life at this point, it's hard to do that with work. So I wish I did. And definitely keep up your conditioning. It helps. It definitely helps TT. The cross training definitely helps.
For me, Paula, I'm not a motocross guy. A couple episodes I talked about the one jump I have to my name, but I do race cross country. We've got a little local series here in Arkansas that me and my dad and Kevin Allen, a few other guys race, and man, we really enjoy it. And that's one of the things that just flat track racing for me growing up, it was all rear brakes. Like I didn't even know the four-wheeler had front brakes. And then we started racing in the woods and I was like, oh wow, this thing has brakes on the front and the back. And so just doing those different disciplines, one, it kind of helps you stay in shape, but then two, I just felt like it helped me learn how to maneuver the quad differently in different situations. I mean, would you kind of agree with that or have a little bit to add to it?
I do have to agree with that. So, motocross world, yes, you need front brakes, but I'll be honest, I'm in the same as you. I use my back brakes more than anything. I've probably cooked more back brakes. I didn't really start using my front brakes a whole lot till I was driving into the corners faster in TT, honestly. Like motocross, I used them, but it took me a long time to learn how to use them. So I can attest to and I can agree with the whole back brake, just using the back brakes because I use it to set up for the corners and everything in TT more than anything.
Right. All right. Well, of everyone we've interviewed so far, Paula, you're the one that's kind of on my side, and everyone else is on Mitch's side. So I'm slowly building an army. Rear brake people.
No, I don't need that. I need all the teammates. Super D.
So Paula, when you kind of started racing, like I can remember coming into the nationals in like 02, 03, there was some pretty fast ladies out there that you were doing battle with. I remember Angela Moore was one.
Yeah.
That's when, kind of Bethany, Clayton, she was coming up and kind of making a name for herself too, maybe later into the 2000s. But who were some of your other big competitors back then?
Heather Bird at the time.
Yeah.
Great. You say Race in his family. She's still a great friend. Actually, Angela Moore, Susan Parker, all the ladies back then. It was definitely fun to ride back then because you had obviously then it was at the end of the two disciplines starting at one, and it kind of unfortunately with the disciplines of racing it separates one's from TT and one's from motocross in a lot of sense.
Right. And that's what I remember. I think the first time I remember watching Angela Moore, I think her and Doug Gus were with TC and had the DRZ hybrids. Was the very first time, and man, they were cooking. I think that was Greenville, Tennessee. Big car track out there. Yeah, that was kind of
cool. I believe that was called I-81.
I-81. That makes sense.
There you go, right on the interstate, maybe.
Yes.
So, Paula, you're talking about racing being family. So, is racing where you met your husband?
Actually, no. Work is where I met my husband. My husband's a drag racing person, and he just integrated he enjoys the racing field. When we met, he started coming to the races with me and fell in love just like I did. So, it wasn't necessarily our quad racing, was where I met my husband, but it was work and, the just racing side of the sport, just some other type of racing.
So what has kind of been his take in getting into the ATV world? Because y'all been married since 16. So what's his take of the ATV racing world compared to the drag world?
First thing he told me it's a lot cheaper and a lot slower. So he's on the mechanical side, so he's a big help when it comes to working on the bikes, which helps me a lot. I just kind of tell him what I need help with, and he knows what to help me with. So but yeah, that's what he says. He says it's a lot slower, but he started to dabble into it and raced my Suzuki, and now is racing my Honda here and there a little bit. So he really got into the racing side and actually the family side and get to know everybody at the races, and just loves to hang out with everybody.
I think that's one of the best parts of just going to the track. Like when we ran into you at Black Ankle, you're just sitting there with your daughter, and we just, well, hey, how you doing? Hey, would you like to come? And it's just, yeah, I mean, everybody's friendly. You just hang out, and if someone needs a part, you hook them up. Like even there at Black Ankle, Damian King's bike goes down, and so Dodd Scott's like, "Well, I got a spare one over here in the trailer." I just love that you can go out there and be, fierce competitors, but when your competitor needs a clutch lever or some, oil, or, I don't know, fill in the blank, someone, or a whole quad like Damien did,
Yeah.
someone's right there to help you out. And I think that's really, really unique to our sport.
Yeah, it's great. It's the best parts about racing is everybody hangs out. If anybody needs something, you're right. You ask or they see something, they come right up to you and offer any lending hand, anything they can do to help you. So that's what's a great thing about the sport is everybody's a family. Everybody helps each other out.
And speaking of helping people out, I know that y'all sponsor stuff within the NE-EDT world. So kind of talk to us a little bit about what y'all have sponsored and put forward, and kind of your motivation behind that.
So obviously my maiden name is Shank. So we keep Shank Racing, and we use it along with my husband's company. His company Rain for Rent helps to donate money to the company or to the sport, along with we do obviously. And we trying to put it back into the youth. The youth is what makes the pro riders these days. Everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody started somewhere. So Shank Racing and Rain for Rent team up, and we both donate and provide to the sport, where we can provide back to the youth to help them to keep putting into their bikes, helping their parents out, and coming in to, come up to the next Brad Bradley, the next Damian King, the next Chucky Creech. So that's where we're at. And I want a place where my daughter as she chooses to race, she's 5 right now, so we're still getting into it with her, but a place she can continue to race. Because as we all know, sometimes some things die in a dying sport. So we want to keep the youth alive and help them keep moving up through the ranks, and be able to provide for them and help them in any way we can.
That's awesome, Paula. And one thing that's really cool that, from the outside looking in, that your husband kind of stepped into, there was a time period there, the late 2000s into like the mid 20 teens. Is that what we're calling that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But kind of the sport as a whole, it kind of felt like it kind of took a little bit of a downturn, especially in the flat track world, the TT racing side. A lot of, places moved on and were doing different things, but he got to come in and kind of see it here the last, I'd say, 2019. I think the Legends race, really brought a lot of eyes back to the sport. And then with, COVID, everybody getting outside, people are like, oh, hey, we can go racing again. And so he's really got to see the sport come around.
Yeah, it absolutely has. When they split the disciplines, it kind of died off. And Eric Jennings and obviously before Sean, and he brought Sean into the mix to help, which brought it back, and we kind of got away from the AMA. But yeah, it really died off there for a while. Now it's picking back up again, which is great.
I can remember when we, first started. when they were talking about splitting the series, that was always, one of my fears. It's like, dude, nobody cares about flat track racing. Motocross is the king of this thing, but it's really cool to see now here, I guess, 15, 16 years later that both sides are really, really doing well, along with cross country too. So,
Well, for the sport to be able to sustain itself in two different series, it's really good. The health of the sport is real. It's much better than what it was even in 2018 as I started to return and go back to the racing a little bit. The sport's really grown since then, so really cool.
Yeah, I mean, but all of them have grown, and TT has really grown. And I'll be honest, I think TT's grown more than a lot of the other sports lately. I can remember setting a Loretta Lynn's with 1,200 racers, and not being able to get a 2-day race in. So, I mean, kind of like how Pine Lake was for the 50th. We had a hard time getting the races in the 2.5 that they had planned. So, I think TT racing has come a long way, and it's great for the sport. And it's great for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Even, for me, I've kind of stepped away, Paula, and got back into it last year with Mitch and going to Pine Lake. I mean, it wasn't the 50th. It was just being back at Pine Lake, and that place is so special to everyone for one reason or another. And like I think the C class had 3 or 4 heats, and like the B class, I mean, it was just crazy. I'm like, man, look at all these racers. And then now, getting to dive more into the NE-EDT series, almost every race out there has multiple heats now. And what was it, Mitch? The spec tire had 3 heats and a last chance qualifier at Black Ankle. I'm like, that's insane. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, yep, 19 in the women's class. That's good. Kidding. That's awesome. I mean, for the first race and down, I was surprised to see 19 of us. It was absolutely awesome.
It was, and to see the people lined up all around the track and just awesome racing at every point on the track. Like we love the women's race, and we highlighted it a little bit in the last pod, because I mean it was cool to see. I can remember even when numbers were good that sometimes the women's class just wasn't, it wasn't as full. There were 10 or 12 ladies. But to see basically a complete full lineup is awesome, and just see how many people are involved in that class. And you talking about kind of your involvement in supporting the youth. Absolutely. We highlight and we talk a lot about the pro classes and the people that are at the top, but they had to go through something to get there. I mean, I started as a youth, and just kind of that drive moving forward through the ranks, that is ultimately what will sustain this sport for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Same, on an 80 motocross, I'd have to say I favorite flat track. I'm a flat track person. I don't mind jumps, but I'd rather stay on the ground. I've always had that. I've always been like that. So
yes, someone after my own heart right there. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'll jump, but it takes a while. So I enjoy staying on the ground.
Yeah, same here. Well, even just on the women's class again, I remember just standing up there and just like Mitch was saying, like the fences are lined up, and what's cool about specifically the women's class was, one racer would have, dad there with them, and one racer would have, boyfriend there with them, and other racers have dad and husband there with them, and I'm like, man, this is so cool about how this sport works. Is it's not just, it's generational, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where, you think like Andrea Creech and Chucky, they've got a kid in like every class out there, plus they both race, 15 class, and,
Absolutely.
Chucky's family's there. And, the race this weekend was the Neil Pritchard Memorial. You think of all the things that, Mr. Neil did over the years. I mean, it's so cool that, for a lot of stick and ball sports, it's just a season of life, and then you move on to the next thing, for the most part. Whereas in the racing world, like there's an opportunity that, you know, Papa Bear, my dad could race a track, I could race a track, and then, you know, my two little ones we could all race the exact same track on the same weekend. I'm like, that's pretty unique, and you've kind of got to experience that, you know, from being the kid to being the girlfriend to the mom now and the wife. I mean, that's pretty awesome to have seen that all the way through and to see the health of the sport now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I mean, it's great to see other women. It's great to see, like you said, Andrea Creech, Melissa, her dad, um, everybody, Alexis Scott, the Reichmans, of course, her family, all of them. Like you see dad, you see, and Bergia's, like they're all family. It's the best thing about it, you know, whether it be even not a, you know, actual blood family, they all become family. So everybody's there, everybody's to help. And 35 plus, my husband raced with me, and hopefully down the road I mean, Hensley was riding a little bit there that weekend, but took a tumble. She's still getting used to learning how to brake and go and her surroundings. So she's still learning. So but yeah, absolutely. It was great. It's great to do it.
That's so crazy that you and your husband rode the same class. So cool,
Yeah,
man.
He goes, I just want to say one time I raced in your class and I raced against you. Even though you lapped me, I raced against you. I was like,
That's awesome.
you make me laugh.
My wife would never let me live that down. She'd be like, yeah, sucker.
Every day of your life.
Yeah.
What? Good morning, loser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I laugh. I say that too because my brother, you know, it started with my brother on the motocross track, and he was racing four wheelers too one time, and then he came back and raced a motocross race with me, and we were in the same class. And same as my husband, you know, it was good to race with him, but of course I beat him, so he didn't like that too much. You know, brother sister love. He didn't like that so great, but yeah, it's great.
And the fact that you're quite a bit younger than he is. It's the same with me and Drew, Paula, is that, you know, growing up, you know, when we were racing like the 4-stroke B class, he'd always be like, hey man, me, you 1-2. And I'm like, you know, a little 12, 13-year-old kid on a 400EX. I'm like, okay. And he whipped me all the time. And then one race, for whatever reason, I don't know if I just like woke up. I think I got contacts and I could actually see the track. Whatever reason that season, man, the very first race I won, you know, we're driving home and he didn't even qualify, which was awesome. And I told him, I said, hey, just think, Drew, you could have got second tonight. And, so he always likes to bring that one up too. But yeah, it makes you feel good, especially when you beat your older brother. But when they're, you know, quite a bit older than you, it makes it just a little bit sweeter.
Yeah, it does make it great. I mean, he's 7 years older than I am, so there is a big difference. So when he kind of got out of racing, I stayed into it. But yeah, it's great for the competition and the family, you know, fighting and um uh getting along, you know, and all that. I mean, we raced at Latrobe, which was 1 year for the NEDT, and I grew up about 30 minutes from there. So he came home, and my nephew and my sister-in-law and everybody came to race. So it was great. It was great for them to come and see it now as opposed to back then. So yeah, absolutely. It's great to hang out with family and race with them, and just that family competition.
So, Paula, you're talking about you staying in the racing scene. What is it that has just captivated you? What has helped you to just stay in racing and stay hooked to it?
I mean, winning's great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I don't, obviously, you know, I'm getting older. I'm 42. So the young girls are coming up, and people get beat, and it happens. And I love it. I love the competition. I think that's what keeps me into it. Plus, watching, you know, everybody else and everybody coming up through the sport and being a mentor to everybody, being a mentor to the women, watching Jess Reichman grow up, watching Melissa Torchio grow up. I watched her as, you know, doing great, watching everybody coming up. That's probably the best thing about the sport that keeps it into it, is just seeing everybody progress and mentoring and helping out. And then hopefully, like I said, keeping our family side into it and keeping going.
just doing your part to do the thing for the sport, nurturing that whole mothering thing. Like, I want to give back to what has given me so much in life. I love that, Paul. Love that.
Hey, and by the way, those two ladies you mentioned were rolling yesterday in Virginia. I mean, Melissa was, I mean, she got a start, and even on the broadcast, they're like, yep, Torsio's gone. And then, you know, they're like, right, been making some good pay. You know, it was awesome. So that's got to make you feel good that, you know, you've had a little bit in their development.
Yeah, absolutely. Noah actually texted me, and my daughter was actually getting ready to go on the stage, and I'm standing on, you know, off the side of the stage watching the race while she's getting ready to go on stage. So yeah, I actually watched the live feed. I wasn't there, but it's tough not being there. But yeah, it's great. It's great to watch her, and even all the other women, Tori McCoy, watching her come up through the years. There's a lot of level of riding in that class, and it makes the class fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big groups, lots of competition. It's great. And it's great to, I mean, we have a lot of girls that moved up from the 90 and the 200, 400 class last year. So it's really growing, which is awesome.
Yeah, Eric giving lots of love on the broadcast. Shout out to Eric, man. He just sits there and bakes in the sun all day with his iPhone.
Yeah. And it sounds like the internet wasn't great there, so it was great for Birch Creek to help out and provide the internet so the live feed could still be going on, and to help the sport grow, because that's what makes it grow is all of us. So it was great.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking, I've stayed at Birch Creek and trained. You know, and once you pull off in there, it's like, man, you know, you've removed yourself from all technology, like you're disconnected from the world. So I am surprised. That's super cool that they got internet out there and were able to make that happen, because I mean, I stayed there for multiple weeks, Dad and I, training and on the motocross track. And yeah, you had to leave to make a phone call.
Phone call. I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. I guess I wouldn't say fondest, but not so great memory is racing Birch Creek. It's where I separated my shoulders. So on the motocross side of it, when they had the long double in the back. So yeah, Birch Creek has been we've been there for years, and you go in there and it's just service and everything drops off, which probably isn't a bad thing. You can get away from everybody, away from the world, other than to be at the races.
So Paula, just going there, I mean, I like to talk a lot about, you know, real life situations like responding to adversity and stuff like that. So you talk about Birch Creek, separating your shoulder. Just talk to us about different points in your life when racing hasn't gone that well for you. You know, you've faced something at some sort of decision. I don't know whether it's financial or getting hurt physically or what, but just talk to us a little bit how you have worked through those seasons of life and just stayed in the racing world.
It's tough. Having a family, getting married, getting in the middle of, you know, all the kids stuff, what they want to do, and still integrating yourself into it. Me growing up, I felt racing as a way of life, and we still do today. So it's a main thing, and you kind of just revolve your world around it, and getting hurt. You got to take a break, but you don't necessarily, you can still go hang out at the races. You just got to get back and keep going and use it all as a learning experience. So right now we're trying to juggle family, trying to juggle kid time and juggle it into racing, which, you know, life, it's tough. You sometimes have to take a break or slow down a little bit, but you still come back into it. And it's a way of life. It's a way to get away, and it's a discipline, and I think it's the best for kids. It keeps them out of trouble. You know where they're at from week to week. If you ask me growing up where I was at the racetrack, so it didn't give me time to get in trouble. So I mean, that's where I see it as a discipline to me. And then just getting back into it. You get hurt, whatever things happen, it's something to come back to always. And it's always been a happy place for me. So I guess that's what keeps me going.
So using it as that point of motivation, like, racing is a thing we will go and we will do. And, if I'm hurt, no matter what, I'm going to work forward towards racing. I like that because I think you got to have goals to obtain really anything in life. If you don't have, a purpose or direction, it's hard to stick with something. But, giving yourself something that's given you so much in life and just using that to feed you, to push you forward and say, we're going to make this a thing and we're going to do it. I like that.
Yeah, and you do what you like. And if you're not having fun, don't do it. And we have fun every day, every weekend, at the races, hanging out and going to the races and racing. And our daughter loves it. She loves hanging out at the track and hanging out track with family. I grew up racing with my dad. That was the best part of it. My mom and my brother. So it's a happy place. And when you don't have fun, that's when it's time to step away and take a break.
This weekend, Paula, like I said, we went to a little local cross country race, and my mom and dad went and took a camper, and then me and my wife and 2 kids, we took a camper and parked, and it was so cool that like 3 generations got to hang out at the races this weekend. And of course, the kids, they loved it. And I asked Cooper, I said, "Hey, did you watch the race?" He goes, "Nah, I was watching Over the Hedge in the camper." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But it is cool just to have those moments and be able to share that as a family. I mean, to some extent, it's like, man, you can't really put a price on that. I mean, yes, it is expensive to do, but I mean, you got to make those
Absolutely.
memories.
Yeah, and it's the best thing. It is. It's making memories. Whether you're watching the races and our kids off or in the woods or at another camper, at another trailer playing. That's the best part of it.
That's one really cool thing about our sport too. Like I had 15 different moms. So I had a mom from every state. So, in the evening when I was hungry, I didn't necessarily have to go back to my camper and look for
Yeah.
supper. It was like, hey, we've got supper over here. It's like you've got all these choices and, everyone that's going to take care of you. And it's cool. You can kind of take your kid there like you're at a campground or something and just the kids turn them loose on running around the pit bikes or whatever. I know that's a point of controversy at times. Pit bikes, I
Yeah.
was probably originator of a problem with that. Riding these, cutting tracks back in the woods, whatever. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But you just let your kids go and have a great time, and that they're taken care of no matter what. So it's really, really, really cool and unique to our sport for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually still learning that with my little one. Everyone's like, "Don't worry about it. She's fine. Everybody's got her." So yeah, it's great. You know that if your daughter or your kids are somewhere else, they're taken care of. You don't have to worry about. They may be getting in trouble, but they're somebody else is there to help you out.
Somebody else is going to discipline them too.
Yeah.
And along with having multiple moms and dads is everyone at the race, whether they race or not, everyone has their role. So like my dad was the truck driver, like he got us there as well as race. And then our buddy, Big Rick, he was the cook. So we never took food because Rick was always there. Like he cooked, he brought giant coolers of sweet tea and homemade cookies. And I remember, Paula, this last year when we loaded up to go back to Saxon, I haven't rode a national in, 10, 12 years. And I looked at Dad, and unfortunately, Rick passed away several years ago. And I said, "Dad, how do we go racing without Rick?" And he kind of smiled and he said, "Man, I guess we're going to have to find a new cook or take food." And I said, "I don't know what to do with myself." And it's just funny because everyone has their role, like the tire checker guy or the gas filler guy or, what, everyone has their role.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm more the mom now, so I can understand. My mom always packed food. My dad worked on the bikes, and now my husband works on the bikes, and I'm on the mom side, so I have to make sure everybody's eating. Like Noah went to Birch Creek by himself yesterday, and he's like, what do I put in the camper for food?" I was like, "What do you want to eat? Did you pack your clothes?" So yeah, it's like the roles
Right.
that everybody that you expect to do, what you do. So it's funny, yeah.
Yeah. Did you take food? Did you take a shower? All the things.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
it takes a tribe. It takes a tribe to make it happen, but it is fun. It's awesome.
it
So Paula,
definitely
share with
does.
us your fondest memory. I'm sure you have more than you can remember, but what's your fondest memory of racing?
Oh, I guess my fondest would be my first championship on the TT track. Um, was Suzuki racing, and we were actually probably in Tennessee at one of the tracks there, and my dad had said, "You win this race, and we'll buy you a new bike." I was like, "Oh, great! Can we?" At the time, I was like pushing to get a Honda. I was like, "Great! Can we get a Honda?" And he goes, "You win this race, and we'll buy this Honda." And grew up. We always pit, and Tiffer Burris helps us, and still to this day, all the time. And we were pitting with them, and one of their buddies' bikes was for sale, and so I was like, "Oh, Dad, that'd be great." He's like, "All right, you got to win this race." So at the time, I was racing with Bailey, and we were up for the championship, and I won the race and won the championship. He was like, "Sold. I got you that Honda." So that probably was the most fondest memory for me, was winning the championship and winning it with Dad. And he's like, "Yep, now we got a Honda for next year." It's like, "Oh, that's awesome." Because I got one of the first Suzukis coming out when they came out, set up for motocross, and then we set it up for TT, and that was the first championship I won in TT, was on that Suzuki.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty awesome because they came out,
yeah.
they were already 50 inches wide. And unfortunately
Yep.
for the TT world, they had a swing arm that was probably from where we're located to where you're located at right now. They're about 8 miles long, but hey,
Yep.
you can do a little work to those things and make it go. Mitch is a Suzuki guy over here for a while. He made it run.
Yep. We ended up getting with Lone Star. They got us some adjustable A arms, and then we got a shorter swing arm which helped a lot. So yeah, the Suzuki handled great. I enjoyed it. To this day, I would probably say that was the best handling bike. I love my Honda and the power, but I would say that was still to this day the best handling bike for me.
Hey, so on my cross country foiler now, Paula, I'm running the TRX chassis with the LTR Suzuki spindles, and I guess now I have the best of both worlds. So
Yes,
it's awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paula, do you have anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
No, just you enjoy it. You enjoy racing. You enjoy it. You can do anything you put your mind to it. But when you stop having fun, it's time to, take a break. But at this point, I enjoy the sport. I enjoy mentoring, and I enjoy watching it and being part of it. Whether I'm racing or not, I look forward to it, and I hope to keep doing it for years. Keep doing it for years to come.
I love it how you're just pouring back in. Well, how about those people who really have helped you out, or your sponsors? Just you can use this as an opportunity to give them a shout out.
Last couple years, Matt Schaefer Excavating. I joined with with Matt and Jessica, then Bergia's Kevin Crawford. True Way Racing, Tiffer's been a big part. Him and his dad have always been a part of my program. EDT channel, Sean, and EDT. Him and we grew up. Grew up watching his kids race. They're always part. We help out at every race. We're part it with him. Shank Racing, of course. Dassa, Lonnie's been great the past couple years. True Way, like I said, Tiffer, Dunian Racing, Hoosier, Tate, Hinson, Rath, Four Works, FXR, LSR, 75 Designs. Of course, my dad through the years, and my husband Noah.
That's a handy list of quality people to have in your corner, Paula. That's for sure, man. That is
absolutely
awesome. Yeah.
And they're lucky to have you in their corner.
That's right. Well, they are more lucky to have Paula.
Absolutely right.
Because the racing is more better with Paula Kweik.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm not even going to correct Super D and incorrect grammar, but
sometimes I like to mix things in.
Paula, for sure.
Yeah, I like to mix things in every once in a while and just watch Mitch shake his head. But man, Paula, thank you so much for number one, loving on your little girl and just taking time away from the race to get her to the recital and do the mom things. But man, the impact you've had on the racing world and continue to have it means a lot. And so thank you for giving us a little bit of your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. This is these podcasts are great too. It's great for the sport. So I thank you guys as well. So,
All right. Well, again, that's Paula Kweik.
thank you.
88 Live to Ride is a nonprofit foundation invested in the protection, education, and safety advancements for all riders involved in ATV racing. One way you can support Miss Debbie Pard-Tosick over there is to log into smile.amazon.com when you're making all your purchases there and select 88 Live to Ride as the nonprofit you would like to donate to. Again, that's smile.amazon.com and 88 Live to Ride.
Hey, man, we've got the 144 Youth of the Nation, Jax Meloy, on the line. Jax, how we doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing well. Hey, give us just, before we jump into all the questions, dude, how did last weekend go up there for you there in Michigan at the 2023 Dust Bowl?
Michigan was pretty good. It was dusty, but it made for some fun racing. We finally got all the little kinks worked out on the bike and finally ran a good race and ended up taking a first place and some seconds, and it was a pretty good weekend. Met a lot of new friends.
Well, that's
Pretty
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, and I know I was telling Mitch earlier, I said, man, I know Jax was really struggling because this is a new machine for you this year. Is that correct?
Yep, new bike, new motor, everything on it. Yeah, still
I
trying
knew.
to figure it out.
Yeah, at PIR, I knew that you'd kind of struggled a little bit, but man, that's always a good feeling when you put the work in at home and work the bugs out and can come out and put it on the top step of the box. Man, that's got to be a great feeling.
So, Jax, you're running a hybrid this year. What motor is that you have in there?
That is a KTM 350.
Oh, baby. I thought that's what that was. That KTM 350 is a bad boy, isn't it?
Oh, man, she's got some power, that's for sure. It is fast enough to get on the box, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. And so let's, sorry, we kind of jumped to the end of the story here, Jax. Let's go back to the beginning. What got you into racing?
Man, when I was about 3 years old, my dad took me to my first sprint car race up in Farmington, Missouri. And after that night, I pretty much just fell in love. I mean, I went to them races every weekend. They had them, and actually, one of my dad's buddies came up that we always went to them races with and said, "Hey, they got a little four-wheeler track down in Sykeston." And my dad, he's went there all his life, never knew about it. And he's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." So me and a couple of my buddies, we all went down there. We had little TRX 90s, and I don't know, all of them, they were just like, it's kind of fun. And me, I just fell in love instantly, and this is where we are now. So
Yeah, fell in love at the sandbox.
fell in love with the sandbox.
So your dad, Chad, did he race, or was this just entertainment for a night? Y'all went to a sprint car race?
My dad, he always rode and all that. Nah, he never actually got into racing.
I see.
We pretty much just went to watch to support all of our buddies. We had a few buddies race sprint cars.
Super cool, super cool. So the TT racing starts for you on the 90, and since that point, just hooked, just moving through the ranks. Would that be accurate? Give us a little background on that.
I ran my first nationals, I believe it was, on my DRR 90. It was stock. Ran it there. I think I ran that for a good couple years. And my dad's like, man, we need to just move up and get a little more power. So we got a built DRR 70. It was, man, best of the best on that. We ran it, I'd say 2 or 3 years, and got pretty good on that. And then Billy came up and he offered to let me ride his 90 shifter, I believe it was, at Flickerwood. And he let me get a little seat time there. And after that, he's like, we'll start running it at Sykeston and eventually get to nationals. And that's exactly what we did. We ran that and then moved up to my 400, I believe. And that thing was bad to the bone for a 400. And we knew we just needed a little more power to keep up with all these fast guys. And that's when we got this 350 here, and it's treating us good so far.
That's always the story, Jax. I just need a little more, just a little more.
So, Jax, so home track for you would be the sandbox there at Sykeston, which, yesterday you were able to bring home the Pro Light win. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. So, tell us the difference in, we know that Sykeston, and we've talked about it on here, is just a little bit different than all the other tracks. So tell me a little bit about your style and the transition from let's say Michigan. How much different is your riding style and setup in Michigan compared to the sandbox in Sykeston?
Well, as everybody knows, Michigan was the Dust Bowl. It was a hard packed track. It was dirt, and so obviously it was pretty slick towards the end of the night, and that's when you really got to get out on your riding game there, 'cause it's really slick, all that, and got to shift your weight, got to get your bike set up just right for it, and them jumps and stuff like that. And people's like, "Oh man, it's just sand over here at the sandbox. We ain't got to worry about none of that." You go over to that sandbox. If you ain't ever rode in that and you're cocky, it's gonna go down real quick because the sandbox has its name for a reason. It's sand, sand, sand. You gotta have the right tires. You gotta have the right riding style is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
You gotta have your bike
loose.
set up.
Jax, that's one thing I like about you. You put a lot of body English on it. That's the way I ride too, so I can really appreciate that working it around. But do you think that's developed from being in the sandbox and just having to have so much English and pitch it sideways before you ever get to the corner to bite on the sand, or what would you attribute that style to?
Oh, for sure. I mean, one thing about Sykeston, it's not just about turning laps there. I mean, it for sure helps your riding style, especially when you go over here to these hard packed tracks like Michigan. I mean, the sandbox just really helps whether you're racing anybody or you're by yourself. You're turning laps, and one thing about the sandbox, it is a good learning track. You will learn a lot over the years, and it really does help my riding style at these nationals and these hard packed tracks, no doubt.
So Michigan, give us your take on the layout of Michigan. I mean, they've changed a little bit since I've been there, but the jumps and the turns, I really, really like spinning laps there. But tell us your take on it, Jax.
Well, obviously, I didn't get to practice at first. We were still working out some kinks, and I went out there for my heat race, I believe it was. And I went out there and made my first lap, and I kind of just fell in love. I mean, I really liked the layout of Michigan. I thought it was pretty fun. I liked that little jump they had there. I liked the little auction lane. I thought it was a pretty fun track. I liked the layout.
That and the facility there is pretty awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. I can 100% agree with you on that one. The facility was pretty great. Good owner, treated us good. It's
Yeah,
pretty
but
good overall.
I mean that promoter of that thing though. Whew, I don't know about that guy. I'm just kidding. Love you, Billy.
Oh, Super D, always trying to pick on people,
Well,
so.
just Billy Morty. No.
Well, Jax, to this point, give us kind of your greatest memory, your best memory of racing so far.
My best memory of racing, um, it'd probably be at the sandbox. Probably be at the sandbox when I won my first national there at the sandbox. I had Billy there. I had my dad there. I had everybody there. It was at my home track. Obviously, Billy owns it, so that was pretty cool too. And
What year
when I
was
picked up
this?
my first, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I've won so many races at the sandbox, it's just crazy.
Boy, that's a good feeling.
That's a good problem to have,
That's a
Jax.
Right.
Well, dude, Jax, I know, just all the things that you've been involved in. For a 13-year-old dude, you're pretty developed. Like I've seen pictures of you on machinery and equipment, and I know you and your dad are super tight in everything you do. So just kind of share a little bit about that, yours and your dad's relationship, and just the different things that you are into.
Yeah, for sure. Me and my dad, we really are tight. I look up to him a lot and try to do everything he does. Just like you said, from running equipment to riding four wheelers, whatever. I'm always watching him and learning something new. Um, Me and my dad, our favorite thing to do together is go to the races, whether we're racing or we're just watching. It's for sure our favorite thing to do. But outside of racing, we do other stuff. Obviously, we run equipment. We like to hunt. We like to fish, play basketball, baseball. We just do a lot of stuff like that in general. Pretty much, I'm happy with anything he's doing because as long as I'm with my dad, that's pretty much all I care about.
So tell us a little bit about what you look up to in your dad. What is the quality that makes you want to always be with your dad?
I don't know, man. There's just something about it. I just always have a good time. He's funny. He's a good guy. He's always doing something that I want to do or learn. And it's just, I don't know. There's something about it I just love.
I ask you that question just a little bit in a selfish way because, obviously Ryder being my son, he's 11, I want to be the best dad I can be. And I want, all the other dads out there for their kids to have a relationship like you and your dad, man. Like, it's like, what is the youth, what is the kids' perspective of dads? I know the thing I really appreciated in my dad was just the drive that he had. I knew that he was going to pour everything he had into making sure that I could be successful. If that was, he didn't sleep, he spent every dime he had. He invested, all his time in pouring into me. That's what I really appreciated and continue to appreciate about my dad is he's going to give 110 if I was involved for sure.
Yeah, I 100% get your point there. Just like the racing, and you were talking about my dad. When you said that he puts every dime into what you wanted to do to be successful, I 100% hear that. My dad will put every tear, dime. He won't sleep. He'll do anything he has to do to help me chase my dreams, and that's what he's doing. Between driving around the country and putting all of our money into the sport and not getting no sleep, it's what we love. So that's what we're going to keep chasing, what we're going to keep doing.
And Jax, one of the things that I think knowing that there was a couple times like, during a race or something, you drive a long ways and things just aren't going your way and you really just want to, pack it in and, be like, well, we'll get them next time. Knowing all that, that, mom and dad are doing this and dad stayed up all night to work on the machine and then drove all the way here. It gives you a little extra fire to be like, you know what, I'm going to give everything I have on the track, whether that's in sixth place or first place or whatever it takes. Like I'm not going to give up because my dad didn't give up. That's always been, a little motivation for me. And I don't know that I did that all the time because I was just like, well, it didn't go my way and I'd pout and get mad. But it seems like, for you and Mitch, for sure, it's like, you know what, I'm not giving up. Like dad put everything into this for me, so I'm going to put everything into it for him.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I'm not going to give up, that's for sure. One bad race don't mean the next one's going to be bad, but it sometimes does get frustrating between saying we just put 2,000 in a motor and just drove 12 hours up to so and so, and then you go up there and don't get to finish the race. It'll disappoint you, but it just gets you ready for the next one.
Oh, TT racing. You if you're getting into TT racing, prepare to be heartbroken because that is going to or like think about the guys. I know the NE-EDT series, this yesterday, a lot of those guys cruised into Virginia there and they got to run their heat races and they got to run 2-3 mains.
No, I think through race 11.
Oh, so, okay. I was way off.
So a third of the races.
Yeah. But, there may be a couple of those guys that, have a later race and they drive all the way there. And if they're only riding one class, they got to ride practice, one heat race, and then it gets rained out. And that's part of it, it gives you a little fire to come back to the next one and make those heat races count.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Jax, any other things you want to share? Anybody you want to say thank you to?
I'd like to thank some of my sponsors, if you don't care.
Yes, sir. Shoot them.
I'd like to thank my mom, my dad. I'd like to thank Billy with CNC Motorsports for hauling my bike to all these far races and giving us everything we need to be fast. I'd like to thank Beth Clayton because she's helped me since day one. Gives me all the advice I need every race. I'd like to thank Michelle Kweik with the photography. That helps out a lot, getting all them cool photos. Julia Thomas with all the cool photos. Kyle the plumber, Whitetail Green, Shipwrecked Apparel, Baca Construction, John Worley with Worley Motorsports for helping me out at all these races, giving me these words of encouragement.
Keeping you fit.
Trucking. What?
John Worley keeping you fit. I mean, he's the most jacked,
Yeah.
tech inspection guy I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's true. He's always doing something, ain't he? Between
Yeah,
testing you
sorry.
at tech to riding bikes and
Yeah, keep those sponsors coming.
Whirly Motorsports, Meloy's Truck and Excavation, and Midway Cook Shack.
Man, and that's the thing. Yeah, we always want to give time for those people because without those guys, you're not able to do what you do. And well, without our sponsors here on the pod, we're not able to do what we can do. So yeah, we always like to make time for those people and give them a little love. And but one thing there, Jax, you mentioned, Billy and how he helps and Beth and how she helps. And then you just went to Kyle's Plumbing. How does Kyle's Plumbing help? Keep the pipes rolling?
Well, not only that, but he gives us money too, and that money it goes towards every part on that bike.
I'm sorry, it's just immature in me. I had to throw in a poop joke somewhere.
Yeah, any opportunity that Super D has to talk about poop, he'll take it.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
honestly,
Jax,
some
yeah,
of these sponsors that don't even give us money, it's not all about that either. I mean,
that's
some
right.
of them just help you, just to help you. I mean,
That's
some of
right.
them can give you words of encouragement that helps more than money, just like Beth. I mean, she gives me words of encouragement since the day I met her. It
Yeah.
helps a lot before I go out on the track.
That's right, man, and that's awesome that at your age, Jax, that you recognize that because those are the people you want in your corner as you keep moving forward in life, man. That's great.
And that some of the best relationships that I had
Yeah.
were sponsors or eventually became sponsors, and they
Yeah.
were family anyway. And so it's just even more awesome that you can go and you can give them a shout out and give them love for the support they're giving, because just the support they're giving you on the machine is one thing, but the mental, emotional support and just knowing that you've got that close relationship with people is a whole nother level.
Yeah, man, it's really good to have these relationships with all of them. It definitely makes even just racing. It makes it a lot better being able to go the track or driving so and so 12 hours up there just to know you got all these people up there waiting for you that you get to have a good time and spend the whole weekend with. I mean, it just makes for a good weekend.
That's for sure, man. Well, Jax, again, I want to thank you for giving us some time this morning. And again, that's the 144 Jax Meloy. Thanks, Jax.
You're welcome.
From top of the line athletes to weekend warriors, 110% Nutrition has the supplements, the knowledge you need to take your fitness to the next level. They are now the title sponsor of the NE-EDT series for the 23 season and work with some of the top pros in the sport like Aaron Medlin, Brad Riley, and Amateur Rider of the Year Tanner Terry. Check them out on the web today and make sure to use our code REMAIN at checkout for a discount. Work with the guys that support the sport that we all love. 110% Nutrition.
Man, again, we want to give a big shout out to Paula Kweik taking some time this morning just to share with us. And man, Paula has been around the sport for a long time.
She has.
And it's cool to see the impact that she's had. Like, I just think, like Melissa Torchio, who's just crushing it in the women's class. And Paula's going, yeah, we've kind of helped watched her grow up, and been part of that. That's such a cool thing. And then, Jax, 13 years old, and he sounds like a professional on here.
He had it all lined out. He was ready to go, wasn't he?
He did so good, and it's good to see him. Like I said, I know they're at PRR. They were kind of frustrated. They were having some little issues, and that happens when you get a new quad and a new machine and trying to work it out. But he put her on the top box there at Owosso.
Absolutely. He's got it, getting it figured out, baby.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Owosso, let's recap a little bit of what all went down there. And I think the overall winner has to be Dust.
Dust won.
Dust won.
Unfortunately, it's one of those situations, I guess, when you don't get ahead of it on the watering,
right,
and you've got all these machines running constantly. You can't stop the event just over and over and over again to water.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from a viewer standpoint, it was like dust, which they got under control for Sunday. So it's like maybe they spent the rest of Saturday night and all of Sunday watering and getting ready for Sunday's race. But man, on Saturday it was a dust bowl, and but that track, it looked super fun. But man, one person I was super, super pumped for, our man who has been at it a day or two, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or a lot of days, basically, Mr. Trent Powell.
Number 2 in the race, but number 1 in our hearts.
That's right. And it was awesome for Trent to kind of get that bounce back. Jumped out there in the hole shot on that TRX, for all our TRX lovers out there, because you know I'm a hybrid lover. But on the TRX, grabs the hole shot and leads majority of the race. You know, when he takes the Joker, then he gives up that first place to CJ. But Trent ends up second in the Open Pro there in round 3. So way to go, Trent. Keep holding it down, dude. Just never quit.
Never
I
quit.
love it.
So even in the short track on Friday night, he gets first. One of the original old dogs of the sport, as I like to call him. Second, our man Mark Lee.
Okay.
And then third place was one of the up-and-comers, Jace White. So how cool is that?
We had all kinds of representation.
Right. So Trent was feeling it in Owosso, from a short track win to second place on the podium. Hey, Trent, way to go, my man.
Yep, good stuff. But for the weekend, so CJ wins 3 of the races. He wins on rounds 3, he sweeps Open Pro and Pro. Then in round 4, he wins Pro, and Garrett wins the Open Pro. Man, I was watching the Pro race, and I believe Garrett kind of got some bad starts on the weekend for the most part. But anyway, the Pro race, CJ jumps out to a lead, man, and just looks like he's yarding them. He gets a big lead, and you're like, okay, he can take the Joker. He gets to the Joker clean, and it just looks like he's on a race by himself. Then all of a sudden you see a white machine just kind of popping into the view.
Yeah.
Like, okay, somebody's coming. And dude, Garrett, it was like whatever their setup was, they hit it, and that machine came in,
Yes, sir.
and he just marched right up on CJ's grab bar. And I mean, CJ was not going to be able to make a mistake because Garrett was clearly the faster rider in the race. But man, that was really cool because CJ, we know, is fast.
Yeah.
But to see Garrett put it together and march in there and get him, I got excited because I'm like, all right, we're in for a treat for the rest of the year.
You know, and Garrett, I know they're still kind of shaking out that new bike, and they've made some changes, and it is going in the right direction. So man, that was so cool to see them, and you want every series to be a good race, and it's been cool to see, you know, CJ be kind of right there at the top, but to see Garrett coming on strong. Hey, Carter Buff
is looking buff.
I have been very, very, very impressed with him. And even, we'll jump into the race yesterday from the NE-EDT World. Carter was crushing it there again. But Jace White gets 2 podiums on the weekend. Trent's on the podium. Carter Buff's on the podium. Like, dude, that is really, really, really cool to see. Some different guys mixing in there. I mean, that shows the health of the sport. You know, the class isn't real top heavy, you know. I mean, CJ and Garrett are always right there, but to see these other guys getting in there and shaking it up, man, that's really exciting.
Absolutely. Jace and Tyler King is there.
Tyler King,
I think he just kind of struggled on his starts as well. And, you know, once you get buried like that, I'm sure that dust had a factor in that.
Right.
Like, if you can't see very well, it's hard to go fast. I mean, that didn't affect Garrett too much. But anyway, hey, before we get too much further in the MWET, I need to give a little bit of clarification on the Builders Brawl stuff.
Yeah, hit us with
So, Super D was sharing with me, he's gotten some messages, and they're like, hey, your math is not exactly adding up on everything. So,
here's to tell people, hey, look where both of us grew up, okay? You know, product of our raising, you know, but there's a reason behind it.
If you can tell anything from Super D's grammar, you know that he's not the one in charge of this, okay?
That is true.
Hey, this dude loves Jesus, and I love this guy, but I'm the math man, okay?
All right, hit us with it.
I'm the guy with the master's degree, right?
That is true.
So,
that's true. That's a good point.
I put together all the formulas here,
right?
And each of these sections don't have equal weight, okay? So I have them weighted different. You can't just take 5 different categories and say they're 25% each. That's not the way it works. So appearance is 10%, chassis is 20, braking's 15, throttle and engine is 15%, and then the overall is 40%. So we score each one of those. The overall is not a score of the average of the previous 4. That's not the way that works.
Okay.
So then what happens from those averages, that takes the average that both you and I have from those 5 categories and then makes an overall average.
Okay.
We haven't shared those for a reason. We're saving that till the end.
Okay.
So just because I gave Garrett's an 88% and you gave it a 90% doesn't mean it's at 89%. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it averages in each one. We actually score the overall, and the overall is not a score based on the previous 4. Well, it is, but it's not a calculation that way. So just some clarification. Believe me, there's math behind this, and I feel like we weighted things in a way. I mean, obviously, appearance, we brag on that, but we don't want that to be heavily weighted on what the machine is. But the overall, the overall for us is, how did it handle? How did it work?
Yeah.
Is this machine bad to the bone, or is it not so bad to the bone?
Well, and we've got to ride 2 of them that are both bad to the bone, and it's good to see Garrett and Actress and Walsh, and I know Ryland's been helping them, and the Jet Labs and Danny Walton over there, RP, all those guys really helping him out, and the same with CJ as well. We're going to get into his race. Yesterday he's had 2 weekends back to back where he's just been on rails making it happen. But
hey, since you're going to go there, let's go NE-EDT Round 2 at Birch Creek.
So Danville, Virginia.
Haven't been there in 10 years.
Right.
Used to race there back in the day. It was just basically a big horseshoe.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Really big berms that were kind of pointless, but
because they were so far off the track.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fun track, but super basic, wasn't it?
It could have been more. And I think if you jump on the EDT Racing channel, our man, Mr. Eric Ashcraft, put on there, and even Tyler Allen's their video crew. They did a track walk video.
With their Cook Media.
Cook Media. I couldn't think of what it was. I'm like, I know it's got a K and another K, but
I don't know what all it stands for. But they put out solid stuff.
They do. And before we hit record, I told Mitch. I said, hey, with the area, the room, and the amount of dirt they have to work with there at Danville, they really put out an awesome track.
Yeah, so I was referring to how it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was not that
Fast
cool.
forward today, freaking sweet.
Way better. Yeah. I mean, when I first saw the start, I was like, ooh, that is super short. But it worked.
It did.
It was, I was really, really, really impressed because I thought, oh man, they're going to start piling up there. But instead of being a short start and a hairpin, it was kind of, I wouldn't even say a 90-degree turn. Maybe more like a 45, around that first tire to the left.
I mean, it almost chicaned back to the right, too.
That's true, yeah.
So there was a little bit of contact there in the Pro-Am race, but maybe it was because the speeds couldn't be built enough to cause a lot of mayhem or something.
Right, that's a good
But
point.
Overall, like the option lines, and how about that Joker line?
So the Joker line is supposed to do what it does. It's to create what you told me, like to create some separation, like to be.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like 10% longer.
Right.
Okay, so if the typical lap time's 40 seconds, you should be about a 44 second to make it work properly. But it's a race within a race because everyone has to take it, and there's different strategy on when you should and shouldn't take it. But basically, it's a great equalizer, especially if a track turns into one line and it's follow the leader. You can't just sit and block people.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right. And one thing that was cool about this specific Joker line was it was I guess it was a triple, or was it like a double with a single after it?
Well, no, there was a double to start and then a triple after that.
Right.
But it was almost the way you entered it. There was a split line, and then it was a third one over to the right. So the whole entry into it was really cool. But the double to triple, it was really cool to see. Like when people would double it, looked like they were coming like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. But then to triple it was like 12. I mean, it was booting people. And initially, I know early on, Brad, CJ, and then Mr. Michael Allred hit it as well. So for those motocrossers in the world like Mike Allred, he's super cool, down-to-earth guy from out there in Virginia. So it looks like he's testing the waters, maybe at Birch Creek. We'll see him run both the Saturday motocross and run some TT. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but we will see. But he worked a lot with my near and dear best friend, Mr. Thomas Brown, just helped him as he came up through the ranks. But anyway, super cool to see them, and a really, really cool racetrack.
Yeah, I was really impressed because when they said they're going back to Danville, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But man, great job to Sean and his whole crew there. You know, Jake Turner and Danny Dirte down there making things happen on the line. They really did a great job with what they had to work with. It was awesome.
So they were rolling through the program.
Yeah,
like it
no
looked
kidding.
like, oh man, they might get this thing done by 8 or 9 o'clock. That's
well, and
super
one thing
cool.
too, you think about Black Ankle. You know, a lap time there is over a minute. That's a big track.
Yeah.
And even at Danville, I bet it was closer to probably, like you say, 40 seconds,
Yeah,
45.
30, 40. I didn't put an exact lap time on it.
But yeah, I tell you what, they were trying to get through them. But I mean, when every class has almost 2 rows, I mean, you got to go quick.
That's a lot of riders to go through.
Yeah, for sure.
But they got through 11 or 12 mains, so somewhere around a third of the races they were able to get to the main, and then the skies opened up.
Yeah.
Apparently a huge windstorm and hail anyway just made the surface where they weren't going to be able to get it back, and so they had to call off the rest of the event, so they scored the rest of them based on their heat races.
Right.
But man, that Pro-Am spec tire,
Yeah.
how about Aaron Medlin?
Whoa. You know, now help me walk through this. So again, they had to restart it. Someone jumped. Was it Tyler?
Tyler. It looked like it was like 5 bike lengths. I'm like, whoa. And
TRX for the win!
so they said, well, and man, he fell on some hard luck later on in the race too. But anyway, had to do a restart. And now Brad had DNF'd and had to go to the LCQ.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if something broke. I don't have the insight. But after he went to the Joker and he turned over as he went to turn left.
Yeah.
To re-enter the track. So anyway, he was back row. Well, then that puts Tyler King in the back row. Well, we know there's 10 different guys that can win it anyway, but 2 guys that could win it are on the 3rd row.
Right.
And so they got together a little bit in the start, but Aaron pulled the whole shot, man, and just
checked out.
Yarded. CJ was a little bottled up there and had to work through, but comes back to 2nd. And then how about Mr. Carter Buff?
I was about to say, Carter Buff, dude. He has got that Suzuki chassis with the CRF engine, man. And the races that we've been able to watch him, it's like, dude, Carter is rolling.
He's moving. We said he's one to look out for, and that's for sure.
Yeah.
With the way it was scored at the end, he get a couple podiums.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
Cool. But those last couple of laps, it was raining, and it became like ice out there. But that pass, Sam Bergia, I guess he saw right at the checkered.
Yeah.
He saw that he could take the inside line and get out of the groove, and it wouldn't be as slick, and it enabled him by will to get Cole.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch, they had grooved in kind of a high line. There was a little bit of a berm, not much, but that's where the groove was. Well, when the rain started coming, it kind of started sprinkling, then it started coming down a little bit heavier. That inside got a lot of moisture on it, which created a lot of traction. So last corner, Sam kind of dives under Kiefer Moore there, and you could tell Kiefer Cole Moore, and poor Cole, he's just like, finally fixed to get. It was for 4th place or 5th place.
4th place. Yeah.
Yeah, 4th place, man. Been working his guts off, and then here Sam sneaks right under him at the last minute, and I felt bad for him, but I was kind of neutral on the whole thing because I felt bad for Cole, but I was like, way to go, Sam! Way to find the alternate line there, you know. You gotta play with the cards you're dealt, and unfortunately for Damian King, oh man, poor Damian, he goes into the last corner and it's like glass, goes through the fence. He's all right. I think the machine's okay and everything, but God, poor Damian.
Well, I think even though Aaron puts on a show in that main, the way they've scored everything from the heats, I think CJ's got to be the big winner, going 1-1-2, because he wins the Pro Class, wins the Pro-Am Unlimited, and then 2nd there in the Hoosier Spec. But, man, what a bounce back from Aaron. Not that he had a bad race at Black Ankle, but when you go out and win by pulling 2 or 3 bike links every lap, you make a statement.
Yeah. Him and the CRF have I think they found some mutual ground where they can get along. You know, there on a couple races it was like, is this going to work out? But hey, it's all going well. He's making it look good.
And getting a hole shot.
Yeah. I bet Jimmy was like, "Did you close your eyes? You just dumped the clutch." You know, so man, episode 27. This was a good one.
It was a good one for sure.
Man, I love all the racing, and there's more coming up. And so this will drop on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then let's see, the Midwest series. They had to make a schedule change. They're actually headed to Belleville this coming weekend.
BET this weekend.
So that'll be exciting. And then the following weekend, Birch Creek. Bud's Creek.
I was going to say
no, we just
Creek.
had
Bud's Creek, big.
Creek.
I mean, this got to be the big event where you're going to have motocross TT to see it come together. I mean, it's going to take a lot of coordinating, a lot of people working together to make this thing happen. And guess what? We're going to be there to witness it, baby.
Yeah, I'm excited just to be around because I'm just assuming, I'm kind of looking at you for a little help here, but I'm assuming we'll get to be around, the JB rig a little bit probably. Maybe.
I have like a couple passes into the JB rig.
Nice.
No, we can do what we can do. Yes, we are welcome in the 88 Live to Ride, the JB tent. We can do that thing.
So this will be my first motocross national ever. I've never been to one.
So we're going to have to figure out a way to balance it because obviously two events run at the same time.
Pit bikes?
Really cool. Yeah, we definitely... anyone want to rent us a side-by-side because we're going to have to go down and help Eric. We got to keep up with the TT world. We're going to help him call some, give his voice a break. We're not giving his arm a break because our arms aren't near as strong as his.
That's right. We're going to take some battery backups.
If we were taking Son of Thunder, he could step in for us, but he's not going.
Son of Thunder, what a guy.
But anyway, you're going to be in for a treat. It is crazy to see the speeds that those dudes carry on a motocross track, and Bud's Creek it'll get pretty rough. So
I'm excited to see it. Well, hey, thank you all for listening. This has been episode 27. Hit us up on social media. Drop us a comment, a like. If you've got negative stuff, keep it to yourself. But positive stuff, no, I'm kidding. Give us everything, man. We're here for it, and we just want to see the sport continue to grow. So, hey. Again, this is episode 27. Mitch, we'll catch you in the next one.
Let's do it.
We're really doing it, and it's because of you, all of our loyal listeners. Thank you. If you've subscribed, we appreciate it. If you're sharing our stuff on social media, thank you to each and every one of you. We encourage you to subscribe, give us a like, give us a review because we want to get better, and you guys help us do that. So thank you again, and we will catch you in the next one.